Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ducks and Dogs podcast. My name is Mike, here with my co-host Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Wasn't a good weekend, man.
I would agree wholeheartedly.
The
Man,
Mariners crushed my hopes and dreams along with the Huskies.
my Arizona
Along with,
Cardinals are undefeated.
yeah, Seahawks won, so that's an upside, but yeah, it was a rough weekend.
Man, it's been tough for the both of us. Oregon loses to Stanford. Obviously,
I told you had to watch out for that game, man.
In all fairness, if you saw the end, I mean, should we have lost? Probably not. But should we've even been in that position in the first place?
No.
Now, again, with that said, there's no way that's a fucking hold.
Ref's gonna ref, bro.
It's Pac-12 refs, man.
Yeah.
There's no way that is a hold.
Mhm.
If anything, I thought the wide receiver pushed off of Michael.
But like you said, they shouldn't have even been
you shouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
Right?
But,
Like yeah, it's a balance. Like, yeah, refs make bad calls sometimes, but also Stanford's a team you should be beating by 2+ scores.
But devil's advocate is like, we were down 7 players, then Kayvon gets ejected, that makes 8. Then CJ Verdell goes down, that makes 9. Or actually, we were down another one because there was 7 on defense. So 10 with Sean Dollars being out. And then there's a few other guys who weren't expected to be starters, who were expected to be rotational players who got knocked out before the season started. Like, there was a lot of issues there. And now Kayvon's going to be out the first half of the Cal game on some stupid... I don't even want to get started, man. I hate the Pac-12 refs, especially when we play Stanford. Do you remember when the pylon was out of bounds? And in every other conference, it is an extension of the end zone. But in the Pac-12, it is an extension of out of bounds. So if you touch it, it's out of bounds.
But hey, man, you still got to play. Next man up, got to be ready to go.
I hope that rule's been changed.
I'd imagine so. I honestly can't remember anything coming out of that, so I'd assume so.
To be optimistic, Oregon, last time they made the playoffs, they did lose early.
I mean, that's usually what happens, especially in the Pac-12. Teams will drop an in-conference game. But I can't remember the last time a Pac-12 champ was undefeated going into the playoff. So,
well, it hasn't happened in the Pac-12 era. The last time it happened was Oregon in the Pac-10 era. There's a really annoying fly I'm trying to kill.
No, you're good. Because when Washington got in, they lost to, was it USC?
Yes.
USC that year, which is the South, but still.
Oregon lost to Arizona, and Arizona was really good that year with the anomaly Khalil Tate year.
Didn't Stanford get in with a loss?
To the playoff? Stanford's never made a playoff.
Are you sure?
Nobody's made a playoff but Oregon and Washington in the Pac-12.
Really?
Yep.
Hold on.
Haven't made a playoff since 2016. You are very wrong. Very, very wrong. Stanford got the Rose Bowl against Iowa.
That's what I'm thinking of, because I'm thinking of the year that
Christian McCaffrey got snubbed.
CMC. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, they did not make the playoffs because I believe
you're right.
They lost to Oregon.
Yeah, that's right. I think they were in the top 4 for quite a bit of the season before that loss. Maybe.
This was in 2015, right?
Yeah.
Vernon Adams. Yeah, Vernon Adams beat him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you guys played the Oregon State Beavers, and I love saying this. You failed to upset the favorite Oregon State Beavers.
Oregon State, man, good teams win, great teams cover. Holy cow. How about that 3.5-point spread? Yeah.
Hey, man.
But holy cow, dude. Like,
is Oregon State for real, or is the Pac-12 just that bad?
I think Oregon State's for real, and that's going to make me feel better about this loss, but they look good. I mean, the fact that you can win with 48 passing yards means that every other facet of your team is doing really well. Granted, you're not going to have sustained success having only 48 passing yards, but when you can gash teams for 250 yards on the ground, that's a pretty good sign. Oregon State had 2 running backs with over 70 yards and over 5 yards a carry.
And to be fair, it's not even that Nolan can't throw the ball. We've seen what he did against USC.
They didn't have to throw the ball.
He only had 15 attempts. Yeah, one of them was a pick. Washington still got a good secondary.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to throw the ball. I mean, you had BJ Baylor, 20 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. You had Deshaun Fenwick, 12 carries, 70 yards. You had Chance Nolan, 9 carries, 30 yards. Like it's just everybody.
Shout out Anthony Gould, by the way, who had a carry for 19 yards and a couple catches. I wrestled with him growing up. He's from my neck of the woods.
There you
So
go.
yeah,
But
shout out
yeah,
there.
yeah, man, it's Oregon State's got a good team. Jonathan Smith, like I said before the season started,
man.
Jonathan Smith is an amazing coach and does not get the credit he deserves.
For sure. And I mean, that Oregon State team, they've improved a lot over the past couple of seasons since he's been there.
They went from not even competitive in games to they started to be competitive in games to they were competitive and they stole a game or stole 2 games. And now it's like, hey, they're winning these games.
They have sole possession of first place in the North right now. Granted, we're 2 games into the conference schedule, but still, any chance you can get a leg up on the competition, like that's good. They're off to a good start.
That's going to be a really interesting how it plays out between Stanford, Oregon, and Oregon State.
Yeah,
because I think we can realize Washington is out of the Pac-12 North race.
I mean, and even then, technically, still Washington's only 1-1.
Yeah, but like
so. I mean, the state that they're in, they ain't looking too hot. But looking from a record standpoint,
you're looking closer to Wazoo than you're looking to the top of the North.
Unfortunately, right now, yeah. And just from what I've seen, shout out Acropolis Jr. on Twitter. He doesn't seem very happy. He usually kind of has an inside lane on things that are going on within the program. Tweeted as of 4 p.m. October 5th today, something about putting nails in the coffin. Not too confident about what news we aren't going to get, most likely going into the bye week, meaning that there aren't going to be any changes made. So,
well, I'm hoping we get some news coming off of the bye week or going into our bye week this week with what most people would agree was the reason we lost that game to Stanford, being Anthony Brown Jr.
Yeah,
man,
is it Thompson time in Eugene, man?
So Anthony Brown hasn't played great at all throughout the season. Like he's never been great. I think he's only had 2 games now, but going into this week, it was only 1 game above 50% completion, and that was Stony Brook. Every other game's been below that until Stanford. I think he was just above that this week. And, but he just made the right choices, so he didn't really lose his job. He made a few bad choices against Arizona and Stony Brook, but obviously they couldn't capitalize on them. They're inferior opponents. But he made those same mistakes this week against Stanford, and it hurt. It hurt bad. He throws this interception that looks like it was intended to go to the Stanford defensive back. Like, I don't know what. I don't know if the ball could have slipped out of his hand. I don't know what was going on. But if that was if he had full grip of the ball and he just made a throw, it was a bad throw. That is bad.
I've never seen a quarterback look quite as bad throwing quick game routes as Anthony Brown did in that game.
And he was above 50%, which, is not too,
not
normal
terrible
for him. And, he had 7.2 average and his long pass of 66 yards. But, anyone's going to be like, oh, see, he completed a deep pass. No, the pass was for 3 yards in the air and the wide receiver took it for another 63 yards.
Some of the decisions he made and the passes he made just had you scratching your head, man. I was watching that game. It was just, ugh.
And he can run the ball, man. He might be one of the best running backs we got. But the whole argument to play Anthony Brown was, hey, we don't want these freshman type mistakes. Yeah. And he's making the freshman type mistakes. That last play in this first half where you have the read option, except for it looks like it's designed for you to just pitch it to the outside.
That was when they were on the goal line, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The tackle pulls out to the right. The guard pulls out to the tackle spot. You have a tackle one-on-one with the defensive back. And then you have CJ Verdell, who is very experienced, very good running back, who gashed Ohio
jumping
State.
Up and down, man.
And jumping up and down, waving his hands. Anthony Brown keeps it and runs to the middle of the Stanford defensive line, which albeit has not been great. But they were still some big human beings.
They were good enough to get the job done, right?
And we had no push because we didn't intend to. That play was not designed to go towards the line. It was designed to bounce outside to CJ Verdell, get a tackle, because there were people who were calling that a bad play call. But how is it a bad play call when you have a offensive tackle one-on-one with a DB and then you have CJ Verdell?
Yeah.
And that's it. There was no other defender. There was just green grass. And you make the wrong decision on that. And even at other points in the game, there was another questionable pass, I believe in the second half. One of our wide receivers, was over the top on, I think, a corner route. And there's 3 DBs there. We have a guy in the flat wide open because the 3 DBs pulled to the top. Anthony Brown still tries to fit it between that hole. Now the wide receiver goes up and gets like a fingertip on it. That way nobody can pick it. But that's a terrible read. And these are the mistakes that we're starting him to avoid. And if he's going to be making these mistakes, then why are we not playing the people who can actually throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field? Like, why aren't we playing Ty Thompson, Robbie Ashford, Jay Butterfield?
Down Andy.
If Anthony Brown played every game like he played against Ohio State, I would not be mad at him starting. Yeah. But he's only played one game like that, and it's the game against Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and even then it wasn't perfect, but you know, he did enough to win the game, obviously. He did enough to not lose the game. But, man, since that game, he has been abysmal. Do you remember Dakota Pruitt?
No.
Dakota Pruitt was the guy who started in 2016 over Justin Herbert to start the year.
Oh, okay.
And he was from Eastern Washington right after Vernon Adams.
Yep.
And, you know, he was really, you know, experienced. Everyone's like, okay, this guy's not going to make mistakes. Comes in. One of the most hated quarterbacks in Oregon football history. Like, he was terrible and everybody knew it.
Mm-hmm.
His stats through this same amount of time are better than Anthony Brown's. Completion percentage is higher. Yards higher. No. Touchdowns higher. I mean, and it's not close. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Dakota Pruitt, if you ask any Duck fan about Dakota Pruitt, this man went on to play in, like, I don't know, nowhere. And no hate to the man, but he did not live up to what we expected him to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really treading on those waters, and I'm hoping that Mario can make Mario or Moorhead. I'm not 100% sold on either one of them having final say-so in this, but Mario or Moorhead need to be able to make this decision and just switch to one of the younger guys. Yeah, what I think is going to happen, though, is they're going to be like, okay, well, CJ Verdell's out now, so that's even more reason to keep Anthony Brown. And, you know, he's so vital to the run game. We need him now. And it's like, oh, yeah, we're still in the playoff race. Well, if Anthony Brown's our quarterback, one of the 247 guys, I can't remember which one it was, it's either Matt Pramer or Eric Scobel, said that we could lose 4 more games if Anthony Brown is playing quarterback.
I'd buy that.
He said we could lose to UCLA, we could lose to Washington, we could lose to, I can't think of the other one, Oregon State, and there was one more, Utah. And all of those, if Anthony Brown plays like he did against Stanford or like he did against Arizona, are very viable scenarios. Like, we could see that happening. Just for that comparison's sake, Dakota Pruitt, for those of you who are listening who are Oregon fans, you remember how much he was hated. So through, I believe, one more game, his stats were 65.7% completions. Anthony Brown for this season is sitting at 56.1. Yards were 1214. Anthony Brown is sitting at 950. So, you know, 300 yards, that's one game. Not for Anthony Brown, but that's one game. You know, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. Anthony Brown's got 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. Quarterback rating, Dakota Pruitt, 152.7. Anthony Brown, 137.9. Or actually, 135.5. So Dakota Pruitt, in every category except rushing the ball, was a better quarterback than Anthony Brown has been so far. And Dakota Pruitt got benched out and going into the bye week for Justin Herbert, the young, talented freshman.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping we see that. But also, you know, that Oregon team had lost all hopes of anything that they were trying to accomplish that year. Obviously, sure. We hadn't won many games.
Yeah. Now,
not to just keep piling on Anthony Brown. I listened to the Mighty Oregon podcast where our safety, Verone McKinley, sat down and talked with Anthony Brown. And you could tell from that conversation how much the locker room does love Anthony Brown and how good of a leader he is and how good of a person he is and how much work he's put into it. But it's just, with his talent level and with the injuries he's had, it's just, we're not going to see any more than we've seen. He's a Power 5 quarterback. Yes, he's a Power 5 starting quarterback. But Oregon is not just a Power 5 team. There's a difference between Colorado and Oregon. There's a difference between Boston College and Clemson. There's a difference between Boston College and Oregon. And the quality of quarterback is supposed to get that much higher.
I mean, after the game this past weekend, there's not much of a difference between Boston College and Clemson anymore. But I get what you're saying with, you know, the national hopes. Yeah.
I still think Boston College's quarterback is not as good as DJU, albeit DJU hasn't been as good as advertised. And Boston College starting quarterback is hurt, Bill Jurkovich.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, just where the programs are aiming for, right? Like
Exactly.
Oregon, if you're
Where
going
they're
to be a
expected to
national
be.
championship contending team every year, like you'd like to be, you can't just have a guy like Anthony Brown coming in and making those mistakes. You
Like
just
we're
can't.
supposed to be. There's nothing stopping us
Yeah.
from competing for championships.
Hmm.
Nothing. Our administration, whether any fans hate Oregon or not, our administration is dedicated to athletics as well as academics because Oregon is actually becoming one of the better public universities as well. I mean,
Hmm.
they're getting really good at academics. They're in the Pac-12. None of the Pac-12 schools are bad at academics, but
Yeah.
Oregon's athletic department is one of the only ones in the conference that is focused on being quality in every sport, not just football, basketball, baseball, softball, track, everything. Oregon wants
Must
to
be
be good at
nice, man.
everything.
Must be
And
nice.
they have the support from their donors. And I mean,
Yeah.
you're not just there to, be okay and, win a Rose Bowl. Like, as great as winning the Rose Bowl is, that is not like we're not at the point anymore. In the early 2000s, it was like, yeah, we haven't won a lot of these. Cool. But now it's at the point it's like, okay, when are we taking that next step?
Hmm.
Just like Rich Brooks to Bellotti did. Rich Brooks started winning bowl games, getting the bowl games. He got to the postseason.
Hmm.
And then they were like, okay, we got to take that next step and go to Rose Bowls. And, when they went to New Year's Six games, they lost a few of them. They were like, okay, but we're in these games.
Hmm.
And I also listened to Mike Bellotti's episode of that same podcast. And he said, Joey Harrington came up to him and was like, hey, coach, why aren't we talking about trying to win a national championship? Like, why isn't that our goal?
Hmm.
And so they started preaching that. And what do you know? They started winning those New Year's Six games. They started being really good. And I could argue in 2001, they really should have been the ones playing Miami instead of Nebraska. And it's just all about what your goals are going to be. If you shoot low, you're not going to obviously surpass them most of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know the saying, shoot for the moon, you still land amongst the stars, right? Like you got
Exactly.
to have those aspirations. You got to aim
The
high,
moon is
you
the
know?
national championship winning it. The stars is making the playoffs.
And that's what frustrates me a little bit about Washington's culture right now is they seem to be content with just competing for the North. And there's kind of a mix of culture where you talk about getting to these New Year's Six bowls. You talk about competing for the playoff every year. But also a lot of guys, on that staff are talking about, well, we should be competing for the Pac-12 North every year. Is that it? Like, is that all you're aiming for? Because that's all you're talking about.
And
And for a
then,
program that wants to be elite,
yeah,
you got to aim higher and you got to recruit better.
yep.
And I mean, there's a lot of other factors that play into it that they just aren't living up to because they're settling.
And to speak on Washington with that, I mean, the way I think Oregon should be thinking on the way the mentality of the Alabamas and the Clemsons is the way Washington needs to, at the very least, be thinking on the level of the Oregons. They don't want to just compete for the North. They want to
Yeah.
win the Pac-12 at the very least. Get to that step, not just winning the North. We want to
Mhm.
consistently be in that Pac-12 championship. And
Yeah.
it's all about taking that next step. And a lot of staff seem to get complacent with some success and not want to make too many adjustments to try and get to that next level of success, which is the only aspect of which that I miss the Chip Kelly era is that man never stopped. He was aggressive. Like Mike Bellotti, Chip Kelly, they were aggressive. If there was something they could do to try and get a little bit of an edge and try and get a little bit better, they were doing it. They were
Yeah.
trying to do whatever they could to win that next game and take
For
that
sure.
next step. And
Mhm.
I'm just hoping we do the same thing here. Obviously, these coaches are recruiting better. We have a way better staff overall. I mean, we invest a lot more money into the staff now, and it's just time to elevate the standard at Oregon. The standard's been
Sure.
elevated a whole lot in 20 years. I'd argue more than any program has ever elevated in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But it needs to elevate again unless you want to be stuck in this middle ground with the Auburn and Penn States of the world.
Yep. Penn State this year's making a run. They look good though. Holy cow.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
They've
They're
been stuck
they're
in that
usually
same
in
tier
that
with
conversation.
Auburn,
Yeah.
with Miami of late, with
Mhm.
with Washington
Yeah.
of the last 5 years with Washington. Like
Mentality wise, yeah, for
we
sure.
don't want to be stuck in that level. We want to obviously be that
Mhm.
next level, and we have the brand, we have the funding, we have the recruiting, we have everything to get to that level. It's just
Mhm.
changing the mindset.
Yep. And I wish Washington had that edge to them because they don't. They don't have that edge at all, honestly. They don't have that swagger like Coach Cristobal, excuse me, has brought in. Like they just don't have that edge. And that's what bothers me. That's probably my biggest gripe with the coaching staff. So they don't have an edge. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? They just don't seem like they have that swagger. They're intense and they love football and they get after it and they work hard, which is good. but you got to be a little vocal about it. You got to
Yeah.
brag about it a little bit. You got to be out there about it a little bit.
Yep.
And they won't do it, which being humble, has its benefits. But in this college football landscape, you got to be able to promote yourself, get out there a bit. You know what I mean?
I'd argue Oregon's strength and conditioning coach is more well known around the country than your head coach, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Half the people I've talked to who are like SEC fans, Jimmy Lake, they kind of think about it
But
for a second.
you tell the mustache guy at Oregon, they're like,
yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, exactly. But man, I could talk about UW culture all day, man, because
it's huge. So let's switch up a little bit. We'll talk about the Pac-12 and the conference. The conference, I've defended it in years, and it's been warranted defenses most of the time. This year, I cannot defend the conference. It seems like it is pretty much Oregon, and literally that's it. Like Oregon State's winning Pac-12 games, but they lost to Purdue. UCLA, we thought they were up there with Oregon, like, competing nationally wise, and now they've just embarrassed the conference.
Yeah.
And I was really, in a way, it was good for Oregon when Washington was getting decent, when Colorado looked like they were doing okay, when, all these teams looked like they were trending in a good direction. Arizona State looked like they were trending in a good direction. But now it's back to what it was in pretty much 2012 to 14, where it's like, hey, you got Oregon. One team will get ranked because they beat the rest of the Pac-12 teams. But other than that, good luck. It's just Oregon. If Oregon drops games, you have no representation in that Final Four.
At this point this year, Oregon's only quality wins can come from Oregon State and any of the South games that they play.
And the Pac-12 title.
Yeah. Which at this point, UCLA and Oregon State.
UCLA still looks like the best South team to me, and that's sad.
And they still look good. They're still going to be competitive, but those are the two games. I would say Washington, but at their current rate, their trajectory is downward, like fast.
Their trajectory is the exact opposite of Oregon State's.
I literally can't even say that like beating Washington's going to be a big deal for you guys, at least right now. Like, and that game is in what, like 4 weeks, something like that?
In November.
Yeah, beginning of November.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Like it's approaching pretty quickly.
And it's tough to see. And if you look at the conference standings, it's like, yeah, Oregon's not even at the top of the North. But like at the same time, it's like if you're looking at this from a national perspective, which everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter, we play good football. No, it matters. We want to get in that playoff. We want to be included in these things. It matters. The only respected team nationally as of right now in the Pac-12 is sitting at third in their half of the conference.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's not something we can rely on. And what it is a lot of these athletic departments are kind of like Washington's. They don't really care as much about football as USC and Oregon's administrations do.
Yeah.
USC and Oregon seem like the only administrations who really care. UCLA tries, but they always seem to make mistakes because they went out, they made that splash hire in Chip Kelly. They're one of the only programs doing that. Arizona State did that too. So I guess most of the teams who are trying to even make an effort are in the South outside of Oregon too.
Yeah.
And really, the conference as a whole needs to realize that I know academics are your main priority, but athletics drive academic success. We talked about this in the Josh Pate episode with Josh Pate.
Yeah.
When Oregon started getting good at football, their application rates rose massively. And now you look at it 20 years later, Oregon's list of donors has grown a lot, and all of them aren't pro athletes. They were successful in other avenues of business because they went to the University of Oregon, and Oregon's academics have been ranking higher and higher every year. Like it's getting to the point where Oregon is closing that gap with Washington, the Twitter trash talk of the academics.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. I think Oregon was ranked in the 20s for public institutions this year. Like
the one thing I will give Washington is getting that gap fully closed is going to be difficult because Washington far and away academics, holy cow. Like
for sure. And it's just like you can improve your academics because of your athletics being good.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how do you think Oregon got there? Do you think without the football and basketball success that their academics would have improved this much this fast? No.
No shot. Yeah, no.
Because nobody knew where Eugene was.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the University of Oregon? Oh, I'm pretty sure like
wait, it's not in Portland? Where is it?
yeah, right. It's like Eugene, Oregon. Isn't that where they make that ice cream? Like it's just Athletics matter way more than these seats think,
Yeah.
and we just
And
it
even
just
like
needs to be
Oregon
driven home.
State, who's finding success in multiple sports with basketball and football now, like they don't
And
really go
baseball.
out in baseball. Yeah, they don't really go out and promote it that much.
Well, I think they go out and promote it, but like, what fans do they have to push it? You could promote, but
Exactly.
if you don't have fans to share the stuff, it's
Yeah. A lot of
promoting
their
only
fan
does so
base is
much.
directly connected to the alumni and student base.
And
You
a
know
lot
what I
of their
mean?
fan base is like, okay, yeah, I went to Oregon State, but you know, Oregon actually is good at sports, so we'll
Yeah.
root for them. But it's the same
Mhm.
way. Like Oregon roots for Oregon State when they're not playing them. So I mean, I think
Yeah.
the thing with Oregon is a lot of them like it's just like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
rivals, but as long as you win when we're not playing each other, cool.
Yeah. I mean, we can't really say the same for Wazoo.
Yeah,
We
y'all
don't
hate
really
each
like
other.
them. Yeah.
We don't hate Oregon State, and Oregon State might hate us. I don't know. I barely talk to any Oregon State fans,
Yeah. I'm sure
but
they find it more of an annoyance than anything, just because, like, oh, they're always really good. It's
it,
annoying to play them every
it
year. Like,
must suck that like we don't care about them either. It's just like, yeah,
yeah.
they're there.
Oregon State did win the Pac-12 tournament basketball this
Mhm.
past season, though. They looked really good. I mean, Oregon did too. The Pac-12 was loaded this year for
Maybe
basketball.
Oregon
Holy
State will
cow.
be the team to help Oregon carry the conference's perception. And I know that sounds weird, but Jonathan Smith, like I said, I respect him
Hey,
massively as a coach.
give it some time, man. Like, very well in a few years, they could be still
If they
competitive.
keep Jonathan Smith, they'll be. I know you hate this, but they'll be the second of the premier programs in the Pac-12 North when it comes to athletics.
Again, current trajectories, I would buy that as much as I hate to say it. And
So,
I just, ugh.
man, so we're about almost halfway through the season. 5, 6,
Yeah.
one more game from each team, and we'll be halfway through the season. As of
Yeah.
right now, who would you bet on to be the North champ and a South champ?
If I had to bet to be the North champ, I mean, you got to go with Oregon. I mean, yeah, they just dropped one to Stanford, assuming that they make the proper changes, assuming you bring back those guys. Like, I can't see anybody else competing. It's either them or Oregon State at this point. As much as I want to say Washington, this bye week's got to change a lot of things. And if they don't, they're not going to be in that conversation. I'm sorry. Like,
You've won 2 games, and one's Arkansas State.
yeah. And the other one's a Cal team that is dead last.
0-2 in the conference,
North.
1-4 overall.
Exactly.
What about
You were the
South?
underdog against Oregon State. Sorry. Like, come on.
What about the South?
In the South right now, honestly, I got to go with Arizona State. I think consistently they are playing the best.
I'm still rocking with UCLA.
I'm rocking with UCLA too. I want them to do well because I said that they will win the South, and I think that could still very well happen. But if I had to place money on a team right now, it would be Arizona State. They've looked consistently pretty good. They've looked consistently like a top 25 fringe, top 25 team. They haven't really wavered that much, which is surprising considering what happened before
Week
the season.
Oh, before the season. Yeah, week 1 with Kansas State was also. Well, that's not.
Yeah,
Arizona.
that was
that Arizona State?
No, they didn't play Kansas State, did they?
No, who did Arizona State lose to? They lost their out of conference game.
BYU.
BYU.
Wait, no.
Yeah, they got smoked by BYU.
They didn't really get smoked.
It was a pretty dominant
27-17.
Yeah, but it was a pretty dominant performance by BYU.
But also BYU's a top 10 team right now.
Yeah.
Like that's not a bad loss.
Yeah. And I really think BYU is going to end up losing to a Pac-12 team or two before the season's over.
Yeah, I'd agree. But I mean, losing to BYU doesn't hurt you
It's
right
not
now.
terrible. No, not at all.
Not at all.
Now, you want a harder question. Who's the best quarterback in the conference? We went over this last time and we jokingly said Jake Hayner, but who's the best quarterback in the conference?
I can't really
It's between
say.
3 for me.
I think it's gotta be DTR. I just can't.
4, but it depends on how things work out at one of these programs.
I gotta go with DTR.
So DTR is one of mine.
He's the only one that stands out to me.
DTR is one of mine. Tanner McKee is one of them. Chance Nolan is one of them.
Yeah.
And depending on how it works out at this particular program, Jackson Dart. I know he's only played that one game, but that was a one game that was like, holy.
He looked really good. We don't have a big enough sample size for me to really be into that pick.
Card in there.
DTR is really the only one I can confidently say.
Nolan,
I think benefits from a really good running game. And I'm not saying that he's not a good quarterback, but the passing game is really open when you're gashing teams. You know what I mean?
DTR benefits from, having one of the best quarterback whisperers in our lifetime, though.
Also true.
The man made Marge Sanchez look like a Pro Bowler.
Hey,
Now
he took
he
the
was a
Jets to
terrible
2
GM.
AFC
So
championship games. So
yeah, like,
yeah.
and he took Oregon to national championships and almost won.
Yeah.
Like, and he's as much lack of success as he's had at UCLA. I will not doubt that man when it comes to working with quarterbacks. You can doubt him in every other aspect of coaching, but he can develop quarterbacks. He can make quarterbacks play better than they are.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And so nationally, what big stories have we had nationally really to go over? Like, I mean, Clemson being terrible is huge. I mean, maybe you are the West Coast Clemson over there at Washington.
Oof. I mean, at this rate, both programs are not looking too hot. So you could
West Coast Clemson.
Before you could make that comparison, and now especially you can make that comparison, I feel like. Which is just, isn't it just crazy that Clemson's not in the top 25? Like, I figured they'd drop a little bit, but you could not have.
They were 25th. I would never have guessed. How are you going to drop them without dropping them out of the top 25?
No, but I'm saying, like, going into this season,
I would not have better this year.
I thought they would have dropped off a little bit, but I'm talking drop off like still in the top 10, but probably not in the playoff.
I like DJU a lot, and I don't think it's his fault that their issues are. It's their
offensive line. I like DJU too,
terrible.
But holy cow, dude, he does not look good.
I don't really think it's him not looking good. He doesn't have time.
Yeah,
that offensive line is getting bullied by Boston College.
It definitely plays a factor, but when he's had the chance to make plays, he just hasn't made it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can rattle his confidence letting him get hit like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what was really the sign that I knew Washington was having a bad year? When Hood Husky turned on the program.
Dude, I think I tweeted that on FQ Washington like this weekend. Hood Husky, like he's like one of the most optimistic people about the Washington Husky football program I've ever seen. And kudos to him. I don't have the mental capacity for that. Like, good for him, but he is kind of
recruiting is still fine.
No shot. Man, I can't even say we're a development school anymore, dude.
You know what I'm just thinking about?
What's up?
We thought recruiting was bad. It's finna get a whole lot worse.
All those FCS transfers are gonna be
about
awesome,
Josh Connerly. You're not getting Josh Connerly.
No.
You're not.
It would be a stretch at this point. That was the one high profile recruit in the state I was confident about that I am no longer confident about.
Are you still confident in Naughton?
Yeah.
You guys use the way Oregon uses tight ends. We might start recruiting tight end like crazy. Not obviously not Naughton. Naughton's got ties to the program.
Naughton's gonna stay, yeah.
But guys who don't have previous ties to that program. Washington might become like a obviously other schools are going to try and get those players. I feel like it might become an Ohio State Oregon battleground.
I mean,
honestly, I know it's not something you would want to like say or even think about.
I would watch it, but I mean, JTT,
Oregon, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ohio State.
Who's the other one? G. Scott. Which was
know where the fuck he went. Ohio State.
Yeah, he went to Ohio State. I don't know if Oregon was really in the competition for him, but still Ohio State, I mean, those three alone were big time recruits in Washington State.
And Ohio State was involved with all three of them. Oregon was involved with two of them.
Yeah.
What do you have to sell over those two programs?
I don't know. At this point, you don't have really anything
the greatest
to
setting
sell.
On earth with 10 fans.
Hey man, I have the t-shirt. Okay.
But what did they think the boycotting was going to do? That makes it worse.
I know.
That makes it worse. Like, players are going to be like, oh, I came to visit and there's 11 fans in the stadium. Like, my high school gets more attendance than this. I know you guys suck, but like, Oregon won 4 games and still did not look nearly this bad.
No. I don't
insane.
even know what you do at this point, man. Like, if nothing changes in the bye week, you are looking at a 5, 6, 7 win season.
And if you don't fix it soon, this might be like just a 10, 15, 20 year thing. I really think this could be a permanent sets you back athletically. Like, you're never gonna the administration was looking for a reason to give up on athletics, and they might have just got it.
Yeah. Let me give you a bit of a perspective being a Seattle sports fan here, right? So I've seen a few people on Twitter this week and they're like, Well, nobody seemed to really care about UW Oregon State. A lot of people were paying attention to the Mariners, me included. I was really excited for the Mariners this weekend. They were one game short of the playoffs. The Mariners, for context, have not been to the playoffs since I was 7 months old. I'm currently 20 years of age. It has been a very long time since they were even competitive. And a lot of people saying, well, the Mariners, why do people care? They suck. Like, yeah, they're close to the playoffs, but they're still bad. They didn't get in. The Mariners are finally making an active effort, management wise, player wise, to get better. You know who's not doing that? The Washington Husky football team. You want to wonder why an entire city has rallied around the Mariners, because they are finally taking steps to being a competitive program again.
Are you guys all Blazers fans out there?
Yeah, it depends. If you're people who grew up being diehard Sonics fans are not. A lot of the younger generation, like no, they hate the Thunder. A lot of people my age are Blazers fans. There's a lot of like sore asses about how Oklahoma City acquired the Sonics in the first place. Who did they root for? I don't know. A lot of them don't even watch basketball, if I'm being honest.
So pretty much on average, the ones who watch the sport are Blazers, Mariners, Huskies, and who for the NFL?
Seahawks.
Oh yeah, Seahawks fans. That is a really sad sports town.
Dude, holy cow.
I've been blessed. So like I lived a lot of places and I happened to pick up my teams wherever I lived when I got into the sport. So I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan.
Yeah.
We're not always great, but I mean, we went to the Super Bowl with Kurt Warner. We went to the NFC Championship with Carson Palmer. We're really good with Kyler Murray now. I am a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
I don't have to say anything.
Yeah, no.
I am a Oregon Ducks fan. We've been really good in my lifetime. I have no complaints. Yeah. And baseball, I was never like a super fan. I was always a fan of Albert Pujols, so I was an Angels fan. I don't even know who he plays for now.
I don't really either.
I don't
follow
he's
baseball
on the Dodgers. I don't know.
I think so. But he's on one of the big name teams.
I might start getting into baseball. I've been to a few games lately this year, and it's been kind of nice. But man,
dude, you want me to round out this thought in a very depressing sense?
Let's hear it.
All right. So, like there was a time when I was growing up, when I was about 8, 9, 10 years old, which was from like 2008 to 2010. That was the time when the Mariners sucked, the Huskies sucked, the Seahawks sucked, and our basketball team had just gotten ripped away from us, like in recent memory. I don't think there's a more depressing sports setting that you can live in. It takes a lot for me to truly just be. It takes a lot for me to truly just be so fed up with a program or a team that I enjoy, because I lived through a 3 or 4 year span where all of my favorite teams were abysmal. The current state of the Washington Husky football program has something just makes me feel upset in a way about a team I have not felt in so long. It has been so long since I've been this upset about a sports program in any sense. And I lived through those years in 08 to 10.
2016 sucked for me. I mean, the Lakers weren't great, but we had like Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. And the Cardinals sucked, but we had like a rookie quarterback. And Oregon sucked, but Justin Herbert looked great. So, I mean, I had that one really bad sports year, but other than that, it has not been nowhere near
I lived through 0-12, Mike. I lived through 0-12 and lived to see the other side.
Pretty sure that year my team went into the big house and fucking dominated the Michigan Wolverines.
I lived through 0-12. I lived through the Jim Mora years of the Seattle Seahawks. There's not much you can I said, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, Mike.
You know what's the best? Your best coach of recent memory was Oregon raised. Mike Bellotti with Chris Peterson.
Oh, yeah, true. But Mike, man, It takes a
That's
lot for
tough.
me.
I mean, I
It
can't
takes a
relate.
lot for me to be this upset. I
can't
just want to
relate.
give you context for how miserable I have had it before. And I'm not. Look, I like this is sports. Like it's really not that big of a deal, but sports are like a big part of my life.
Oh yeah, no, mine
And
too. I love
you
sports.
know, like, and holy cow, man. I mean, at least the Seahawks are good. At least the Mariners are, doing all right. Like,
I'll give you a city till recently who's comparable, or
mhm.
a region in general, Florida. Until recently, what were they good at? The Rays were a feeder team for other pro teams. They would literally just develop players and send them to other players.
But yeah,
The Magic sucked. The Heat sucked outside of LeBron's years. The Buccaneers sucked. The Dolphins sucked. The Jaguars sucked.
Mm-hmm.
But now the Heat were just in the finals. The Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl. The Rays were just did they win the World
Miami's
Series?
competitive again in football.
The Lightning won the Stanley Cup. Miami's competitive. The Florida Gators are pretty good. The Seminoles are dog water. But
hey, don't let Corey hear you. He might shut us down, man.
It's better. It's a lot better.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Seattle's a lot better.
Yeah, Seattle, like, because at least the Seahawks have been good since.
At least your pro teams are good. Your college teams just suck.
Yeah, dude, and holy cow, and even just outside of Seattle, the rest of the state. Well, I mean, that's Portland. That's not even Washington. Like, we can't even really claim that one, if I'm being honest with you. And like Washington State is not good. The best program in the state is like Eastern Washington. They're not even a D1 football program. Or well, they're a D1, but they're not FBS, you know what I mean?
I could argue they'd beat you this year.
I'd believe it. They just beat Montana.
How bad did they beat Montana?
I think by a couple touchdowns or a couple scores.
If they beat Montana by multiple scores,
let me see. I'll look this up right now. I'm
gonna send a tweet right after we finish the episode.
Oh, 34-28 Eastern Washington.
We are literally about to wrap this episode up, and I am about to go tweet that out. Man, so this has been a very somber episode for the both of us.
this has been humbling to say the least.
The Pac-12 After Dark Depression. That'll be the name of the episode.
No, not Pac-12 After Dark. Pac-12 Going Dark.
Pac-12 Going Dark. Yep, that's it. That's the episode name right there. And we want to thank you guys for watching. We are very depressed now. We're both having a bad week when it comes to our
some more so than others. Some have been suffering for a few weeks longer, but still, it's not a good week. Yeah. It just turns into numbness after a while.
See, now I'm at the point where like, hey, maybe we'll make a change, knowing damn well we won't make the change. Yeah. And it's gonna be great, but it'll be okay. Everything will be okay.
I'm not making any promises. So.
Thank you guys again. I want to thank you guys for watching. We will hear from you guys soon. After Oregon's bye week, Washington's on a bye.
Yeah, they're also on a bye week.
There we go. So there won't be much to talk about next week.
We'll probably have more of a college football type, like overall college football type episode next week because there's a lot of good games on.
News regarding Oregon's quarterback room. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll have some news about Washington staff actually doing something.
No, you won't.
But we won't.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time.